All right, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Tuesday Morning Coffee. Brad here with my partner in crime, right-hand man, Tony, the tall and lanky Woodall. Tone, appreciate you being with us as always.
That's right. A lot of initials.
Yeah.
A lot of initials for me.
I think we're going to have to come up with a middle name for Tony every episode. I think that might be a lot of fun. So
OT and L.
Yeah, that's it, man. We were just talking about the sweaters, how it's tough for the man to buy sweaters.
I tell you, it is. You can get 6'8" lengths.
Yeah.
But you have to get to the big and tall shops, and then you got to have an ass the size of Georgia, and that don't work for the big fella.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what you're saying is nobody has quite this
got
body.
my clothes.
Yeah, nobody has this body. So I don't know if you know this, but this is the first day of what appears to be spring weather for Nashville.
Oh, wow. It's gorgeous outside. Good morning.
Yeah, it's going to be about 68 today. So I tell you guys, I have not been this ready for spring in a long time.
Yeah.
I don't remember it. We've had quite a bit of snow. And I guess really all over the country, we've had kind of a tough winter.
We have had a strong winter. And I mean, for us to have 3 big snows in one winter is good. When we say big, I mean 5 inches or more, and that's big snow for us.
Yeah, the whole world shuts down here.
And we had it.
For sure. So looking forward to that. Spring selling season is really coming up on us. We had 4 pendings retail set to close yesterday. I think we got 2 of them done, and then 2 are supposed to close today. Well, one's supposed to close today. One defaulted, and so we're dealing with that.
Have they fully declared their default?
Well, they haven't declared it. They haven't admitted it. So here's what happened, guys. So we had a property under contract going retail. The buyer is what appears to be a builder, and so we bought the house for $160, I think, $160, $170. Mm-hmm. This is Gary Drive in Nashville, which people say is really tough to buy in. Of course, tough to buy in these metros. And so we bought it for $160. I think we were selling it at $340. We did a light rehab. I mean, I think we had to do a kitchen and some flooring, and some paint.
I mean, we probably had 20, maybe 25.
Yeah, so in ballpark, it wasn't terrible. And so get to Friday, the buyer agent says, hey, we need to extend closing. So our question is, well, why? Tell me why. He said, well, title's not in yet. Well, guys, we have title companies that, if I said on a Friday, hey, I need to close Monday on this deal, we can pull that off.
That's right.
And I said, hey, no problem. I'll have my title company pull title. We'll close Monday. No problem. He said, well, the buyer's out of town. Oh, the buyer's out of town. Interesting. No problem. We'll send a mobile notary. We close from stuff that we're not buying.
That's right.
There all the time. And so finally he said, well, the loan's not ready. And I said, well, if you want to buy more time, then buy more time. But, you guys not being ready for the financing to go through is not really my issue. And so we talked to the lender Friday and said, hey, tell me about the file. They said the file's good. The file's strong. We're probably going to need another week, but there's no issue. The appraisal's in. We're good there. No problem. Okay. Saturday, the buyer agent calls and says, hey, we're going to exercise our right to terminate based on financial contingency. Okay, do you have a denial? I said, no. There's no denial, but we're not ready to fund on Monday, and so therefore we're able to exercise. It's nah, fella, that's not how it works. And so kind of went back and forth a little bit, and we just kind of left it as he said, well, we expect you to release earnest money Tuesday. And we said, well, that's not going to happen. So you can expect litigation. We're not going to play this game. And we dealt with this on Branch Avenue in Nashville. Mm-hmm. If you remember that, I had a buyer that, and he was a real estate agent for a big name company here and team, I should say. And the guy started to ghost me. We were set to close the next day. Hadn't talked to him, been trying to get in touch with him. Hey, you good? Wouldn't reach out. And, this is not no news is good news. No news is definitely bad news in this kind of scenario. And so I went to his broker and said, look, I don't know what to do. We're supposed to close tomorrow. This guy won't call me back. Ended up, he finally reached out and said, well, I had a partner and the partner wasn't real sure. And, yada, yada, yada. And so we ended up filing suit on that. I mean, litigation is just a part of business. It doesn't matter your business. Like my father had a transportation company and had litigation. Like it's just part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't like litigation. But what I dislike more is people just thinking they can make up deals as they go.
Oh yeah.
You know. So all of that to say, that one's going back active today, and it'll sell. But this guy thinks that he probably knows more than what he really does, and I think that's probably most realtors.
Mm-hmm.
Probably most realtors. So anyway, that was yesterday.
Well, I mean, it's not like the house is in Monroeville, in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
So it's a shame. It's
But
a shame.
That's how it goes. So on a more positive note, we'll go over the deal of the day. This is in Zephyr Hills, Florida.
Well, a quick positive note on that though. How many in the last week have we had close? I mean,
I don't know.
They rolled out all last week.
Yeah, it was like every day just
boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
So good stuff.
It was good. So deal of the day, we just bought a house in Zephyr Hills, Florida, which is just northeast, I believe, of Tampa. Again, a market where people say it's really, really tough to buy houses. And bought it for $130. Just got the pictures in where it's vacated to be about a 20K rehab. So we'll have about 150 in it. About a 250, 260 exit.
Okay.
So real nice. So we're excited about that one.
So what were we, about 60% on that one? And when we run our numbers, we would be.
Well, let's just kind of figure
it
it out.
Sounds better than 70.
So 150, about 250. We're at 60%.
Yeah. It's a good guess.
Yeah. Nice guess, Tom. Very good. Very good. So we're excited to get that one up and going, and just
Zephyr's the other day.
So
what else? A nice area.
Yeah, I've heard it is, and it's really appreciating quickly. Like all of Florida is, but this area specifically, because of the price range, I think it's just really, really done well. And this house had been renovated about 4 years prior, so it had new windows, had new cabinets, granite, all that. The carpets are dirty as hell, but and it needs paint. And
yeah, a lot of times your carpets and paint and just some touch-up stuff. But if it's 4 years ago, I mean, they probably replaced everything with silver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's updated in that way.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, so we'll be fine on that. Just another day.
Mm-hmm.
So what I wanted to really talk about today was like maintaining context, because I know for me, I have a really tough time really maintaining context in terms of, well, I'll just put it in terms of an example. So in June of 2021 was the first month that we bought $1 million in equity in 1 month. Okay. So it was the last day of the month, and we were just shy of it. I think we're at like 940K, but we had 4 or 5 contracts like out there. And so all day, or at least that afternoon, like I'm like, are we going to hit it? Are we going to hit it? And I'm checking my email constantly, like waiting on a contract to come in, And so I'd gone to Atlanta to look at some property down there. At least that's the cover that I give myself. Because really, I went down there to Bones in Buckhead to eat. It's like one of my favorite restaurants.
Lunch.
Yeah. So I went down there to Bones. I was like, well, since I'm down here, I'll take a few minutes and go check out this house, which me and Tony have done before, and we never really quite made it to the house. On that house that we sold Open Door in Marietta. So anyway, on my way back, it was probably about 7:30, maybe 8:00 p.m. And I get an email, and I look, and it's from DocuSign, so I know it's one of the contracts. Now, out of the 4 or 5 contracts we had out there, I think 2 or 3 of them would have put us over the top. And so I'm looking to see if it's one of those that put us over the top. And it was Greenville, Tennessee.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I look, and it's one of those deals. So I think we paid like 80 or 85K for it, something like that. It's going to be roughly a 300K exit. Mm-hmm. It's got a pretty deep rehab though. Mm-hmm. Like it was a rough property, tough situation, which we've talked about before. But so here's what happened. Open up the email, and for about 10 seconds, I'm like, wow, we did it. Like we did it. $1 million in equity in 1 month. Wonder what we can do next month.
Yeah, it wasn't an accidental million. I mean, we set out to see if we could do.
Correct. And it took us, what, I think April was the first month we attempted. May, we got real close.
Mm-hmm.
June, I wasn't sure because we had mastermind. We had our in-person intensive.
That's right.
And so we were gone for a week. The entire team was down in Florida, preparing and then doing the mastermind.
And it's hard to write up contracts from a pool. I mean, you get your paper wet, the ink blurs on it.
Tough to do.
It's tough to do.
Tough to do, but James pulled it off pretty well. It was so funny because I don't know if you remember, James had his own corner outside of the conference area. And he was all the time triaging and sending out contracts. And so he had his own little mini mastermind. It was like grandpa starts to talk and he's old and wise. And like the kids just sit down, crisscross applesauce and like
just to watch it,
listen to the wisdom. So some of the apprenticeship, there'd be like 5-10 people outside just listening to James. And James wasn't expecting that. And he was like, Brad, I got a little nervous. Everybody watching me. It's kind of funny. But we hit that million that month. And I realized after I had about a 10-second period to enjoy that I was already trying to go to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a tough thing emotionally to always not really, and it's not that I'm thankful. I'm extremely thankful. I'm extremely blessed, but not to take the time to really acknowledge that we did something that we didn't think we could do.
Mm-hmm.
And so the context of that moment was something that showed me that I have an issue with always going to the next thing as opposed to just like sitting and being okay with where we are. I guess that's a good way to put it. Like I have a really, really tough time with the status quo, regardless of if the status quo is exactly where I wanted to be 3 months ago. Right. And so this came up in a conversation with you a few days ago because of one of your accountability calls.
Yeah, last Wednesday night. And it was a good call. I mean, we had a lot of folks on there. Sometimes we'll have as few as 5. And a lot of times, like last week, we had 20, 25 on there. And
so what is this call exactly?
It's an accountability call. The primary purpose of it is to help investors hold themselves accountable to the script. So that the script does the talking, does the leading in our triage calls or in our sales calls, buyer calls.
Yeah.
It is the script that does the leading and not us, not our personality, not what we think they need to know next, not responding to their questions. And that's what the script is designed to do. And our biggest place where we probably lose the most good deals is that we do not stick to the script.
Yep.
And so, that's a primary thing, but there are other things you have to be accountable to in our process as well. I mean, why join a program if you're not going to become accountable to that teaching? So one of the guys on there, who's a great guy, a lot of fun, and is good at the business, great personality. He might be someone that would struggle every now and then to stick to the script just because he's got such a great personality.
Yeah.
Probably start talking about college football right in the middle of it. And as would I. So anyway, Charlie spoke up and he said, "Hey, can I ask a question?" And we were talking about something totally different, and I said, "Yeah, go ahead." And he started about a 5-minute rant on why his leads suck this month. And we're just about to, we're 2 days away from the end of the month, and he has not done a single deal this month. And how the leads suck this month. They're just they're scams. A lot of them are scams, spam, not motivated sellers, the whole deal. And so he was telling the truth, and he had a legitimate question he was asking. And so what I try to do on there is to get investors talking to themselves, because it's easier for someone to take advice from someone they know is busting their butt like they are than someone who's just doing some teaching. So I said, Chris Teal, what's your response to Charlie? Chris talked to him a minute about what goes on with his. And I said, Keith Gillespie, why don't you talk to him about where you are? Rachel Wilson, why don't you jump in here and tell him because everybody struggles with that. And there was one person that told him, we've had the same kind of thing this month. And so, but I could tell my primary purpose for doing what I did was I could tell Charlie was down.
Yeah. Yeah.
This had gotten him down. He's more concerned now. Is this a new norm? Is next month going to be like this? And so I asked him, I said, Charlie, can I ask you? I just want to give him some context. And I didn't tell him I'm about to give you some context. I just said, I want to ask you, how long have you been doing this? And he said, oh, about 6 months. Well, not really, because the first month, we kind of eased into it slow, and we had some stuff going on, and so really 5 months. And I said, 5 months. He said, well, not really. I mean, really, it's more like 4 months, because we kind of took Christmas off, and did the family things. One thing I like about Charlie, he is a huge family guy,
100%,
huge
yeah.
date guy with his wife. I don't blame him. She's a smoking hottie. I mean, it's just great stuff. So anyway, we're looking at her and talking about her in front of her right now, so it doesn't really matter. So he said, so really 4 months. I said, okay, Charlie. I said, have you had any deals? Have you bought equity on the front end, got equity under contract, took it through the process and harvested or got your yield of whatever your equity is going to be on the back end, whether it's cash or cash flow or a note or whatever? And he said, oh yeah, I've had 2. And I said, well, what was your equity grab on those 2? And he said, well, one was 50 and the other one was 45.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay. So let me see if I've got this right. You've worked 120 days on this, and you've created $95,000 in equity. And he goes, well, if you're going to put it like that, I guess yes, I have.
That's way too much context at one time.
I mean, I guess that is the case, And I said, I'm not trying to make you feel bad. That's about your complaining. You need to fix whatever this issue is right here.
Right.
And but in context is so important. And we usually compare ourselves, like in a rehab. When I did rehabs for 4 years, I would compare myself in the beginning when I'd first start the rehab. I'd compare myself to the crappy way this house looked 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So those beginning pictures are exciting to send in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're exciting for the people looking at it.
Yeah.
But the further you go, the closer you get to the finish of that rehab, you start thinking about the sales price. You start thinking about what it's going to compare to out in the market. And now you're not comparing it to where it started. You're comparing it to where it should be compared to all these even new construction out there.
Right, right.
So it changes your perspective, and you don't have the full context in the beginning, and you don't have the full context in the end. You really have to take the whole context of all of it, and you compare back and you compare forward. So it's important, and you need to know when you're gonna. Let's say, am I ready for that immediately? Do I have the infrastructure I need on the inside, to do 3 or 4 of these in a row? Can I, how many weekends is it going to take for me to rehab 3 houses?
Right. Yeah, that's right.
And will I ever see my family again? So anyway, it was a good context call though.
So what do you think the end result was for that call for both him and other people there?
I mean, I think it's important that we have the pressure from both sides. We have the excitement, the pressure of excitement on the front end when we're comparing it to where we just come from.
Yeah.
Like your June compared back to May, the month before.
Right.
It was exhilarating to know I just missed it last month, but this month I got it.
Right.
Bam. Now I have to ask, where's my fulfillment in this thing? How am I going to get this done? How am I going to process all of this? And make sure that when I start looking to the next month and I want to do that again, I'm also learning from where I came from. It's context is the ability to see lots of different perspectives from different directions. Look at your infrastructure now in our company.
Right.
I mean, we are all looking at the same item, but we see it from different perspectives. The perspective of what I do. Whatever I do, that's the perspective I see it from. So it is. It's context a bunch of stuff. I look at you when you were describing that a while ago. It's like the difference between explorers and settlers. One's not better than the other. They both have a purpose. Someone came along, an explorer came along and found this piece of property. I've read their description of it right on the Stones River right there. And they established something. They drove a stake in the ground. But they moved on because they're an explorer.
Right.
They were looking for their next stop. What are we going to do in July?
Right. Right.
Some people came along and found this neat little spot that this guy had drove a stake in, and they built something there, and they decided to stay. And that's why there's now a city there.
Mm.
Both are equally important, but when you look at them both in context, they have great purpose. And there'll always be a conflict between those two.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's a good conflict. This one's going to pull us to the next place. And these are going to build what this one found.
Yeah, they really need each other, and it is symbiotic. One thing that you said that I think bears really mentioning again is that it sounds like Charlie had some frustration over the lead flow, and because the context wasn't there, then that creates kind of a negative feedback loop. So the basics of the negative feedback loop is that if you have mediocre belief system, so you're having doubt, then you put mediocre energy into the business. That creates mediocre results, which only reinforces the negative feedback.
Yeah, new negative expectations.
Correct. Yeah. And so that's really, really tough for people to break through. But what you said was just perfect. It's like, my guess is that when he started, if he knew that he was on track to create roughly 250, 270K in equity a year of actually implementing, very happy with that.
Yeah.
But whenever you get into the weeds, it's really tough to see the forest.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? So
I had that on a call yesterday with a guy who's calling in to see if we were kind of dating for about 30 minutes to see if he's a good fit for us and we're a good fit for him as an apprentice.
Yeah.
And I asked him in the beginning, what would you like for your next year, your first year to be, the next 12 months? What kind of number? What would be your goal? And he gave me a goal of $100,000.
Right.
I said, okay, if you did 2 deals this next year, would you be okay with that? Would you be happy?
And that's such a good question because people feel like the deal flow it matters.
Yeah. And he said, I don't think so. And I said, well, your average profit, even in your first year, is going to be probably no less than 50,000.
Yeah.
It could be closer to 60 to 65,000. And that's just 2 deals. So what if you get up both of those in January? You going to go on vacation the next 11 months? No. So a context is everything when we're looking at stuff. All Charlie had to do, and he does it in lots of different ways.
Yeah.
All he had to do was to back away for a second to where he could see a broader picture. What happened at that month, he was okay the first week. He got in the second week, he started having a little internal pressure on himself. Why hadn't I closed one?
Right. Because the expectation is that he should have.
The expectation he should have, because that's been his immediate history.
Right.
That he did. But then after it kept going, his view of the month started closing in to where all we could see was each lead that was coming in there.
Right.
And so it is a tough thing.
And that's dangerous because you're going to bring that expectation to that next phone call.
Yeah.
So
then let's say he gets into the next month and he has 100 leads that come in and all of them are terrible except for one, but he makes $100,000 in equity in that one. Has he had a successful month or has he not? Is he in the business of talking to people on the phone or capturing equity?
Right.
If it only takes one to do it that month, is that okay?
Yeah.
And so context is a lot to do with it.
Yeah, 100%. So one of the things that I noticed, I was at this was the last day of February. And it's 8 o'clock. No, it was early. It was earlier than that, maybe 7:30, 7:15, 7:30 in the morning. And it's vacant. And I remember how it was just 45 days ago when you couldn't get on, the most common exercises because, there's effectively a line. People have lost their context of, well, it didn't happen yet. I haven't got healthy yet. I didn't lose weight yet. As opposed to understanding this was your annual goal. It wasn't your January goal, or February goal, more likely than not. I've never seen people make a New Year's resolution for January. They make it for the year. See?
Yeah.
But they've lost the context of, well, I didn't lose 5 pounds the first week. And so they start putting these expectations on themselves of when things should happen. And don't get me wrong, like we have to plan, but we're going to put the inputs that we know create the outputs across a long enough period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is what I talk about, especially with marketing, is we want to have a 5-month runway. Okay. We have some things that we have to learn. We have to get better at some things. We have to be able to identify deals. But we can have a fantastic jet plane with everything that it needs to have. But if we don't have a long enough runway, we're going to crash. Like we've got to get off the air or get off the ground.
You got to put gas in it.
Yeah, and you got to put gas in it, And so that's the same thing. But I just thought that was such a, I guess, sad thing because, health is a big thing. Mm. I know it's something that, like ever since I've known you, you've had Hope as your personal trainer and you worked out and you go walking and different things. And that's so important. So many people, they lose the context of what that goal looks like or what the effort looks like. Mm-hmm. Maybe that too. And so, here I am in like this barren gym, but for me, it's not about motivation anymore. It's about just having a schedule, so like the motivation gets you started. It's good habits that keep you going, so creating the habit, which I've done across years. So for me, I don't go to the gym or don't go exercise, so it's just different. But I thought that was really a tougher thing.
I also think about last year in April, we talked about, hey, what do you think? You think we could, well, it was in February, March. Do you think we could, let's get a meeting. Let's go for a meeting.
Yeah, it was about this time last year that we started thinking about it because it took us until the 26th of February to create $1 million from the 1st of last year.
Right.
And so I said, I bet, it was less than 60 days. Mm-hmm. I bet we can do this in a month.
Mm-hmm. And before that time, you didn't talk a lot to the buyers about how much we captured that month. It was really about details and deals.
Yeah.
Are we sticking to our script? Are we buying subject to enough?
Right.
Whether we're going to retail it out or whatever, are we saving money by buying subject to so that we're not having to borrow money, hard money lender? Are we getting some now, some later? It was working interior sides of deals, but then when you said that about $1 million a month, it was like we had a conversation about it. I will never forget, me and you and Casey and Abby had a conversation. Mm-hmm. Can we do this? And the answer was, well, yeah. You knew we could do it. I felt like we could do it, but did we have the infrastructure for it yet?
Yeah, that's the question.
Yeah. But here's what happened though. Explorers have a dangerous job. They usually travel alone or with someone else because very few people want to traipse through, wilderness with everything that's out there. Bears, rattlesnakes, whatever. Not even sure where the next river is. Working on hand-drawn maps that people have handed to them. And so it's dangerous to get out there by yourself. But it's the only way there's going to be new ground gained.
100%.
So even though we knew we weren't ready, we did it anyway.
Yeah.
Now, if we'd have done it once, it'd have been one thing.
Right.
But it happened again the next month. And I believe it happened the next month because the first month that it took place, the confidence in everybody rose.
Yeah.
All on the exploring side.
Right.
Rose through the roof, and we did it again. We did it again. Actually had to purposely
slow infrastructure.
Yeah.
But what happened was people gained certainty.
Yeah, certainty, and then it forced us to go to infrastructure. And then once you went to infrastructure, everybody was brand new at what they were doing.
Yeah.
And so it took some time for that to ramp up. And now, I feel like we're getting to a spot to where that can become and confidence-wise, it is our new normal.
Yeah.
We do realize we can go back to it whenever we want.
Yeah. It's really like turning on a water faucet. It's like if you want more equity that month, just do the effort to turn it on.
Mhm.
You know, like it really is that certain for me. And at the end of June, it was as well. And I knew we could do it based on how we trended in May. The question at that point was when. And so June we hit it. July I said, oh no, we're not stopping now. We're going to replicate.
Right.
In July we did it again more, and then more in August. And then at that point we had like 50 something deals that we were sitting on that we owned, something like that. And so I had to pull it back, you know, because we had to. Then it was fulfillment.
Yeah.
So like you start off, you have a marketing problem, right?
Right.
So you have to understand, you know, the first problem in your business is marketing. You know, buying deals, getting leads, that kind of thing. And that's the problem that most people that are looking to join with us, they understand that they have.
Mm-hmm.
What they don't understand is once you fix that problem, you're creating the next problem,
Yeah.
which is fulfillment.
Yeah.
You know, so understanding how to create infrastructure, how to build a team, how to create culture, all of those things are super important if you want to build a lasting business.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't, if you're a solopreneur, you have you have an expiration date in this business if you're doing any kind of deal flow at all. Because it's really tough to go and do 2, 3, 4 deals a month for 48 months. I don't know if I've ever seen anybody do 4 deals a month for 4 years.
Right.
Without building some kind of team. Maybe sometimes their spouse comes in.
Right.
You know, something. You know,
somebody starts doing their buying for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you seen that new TV show 1883?
No.
Okay, I think it's a spinoff of Yellowstone. And so I think you would really enjoy it. It's a Western sort of thing.
Uh-huh.
And Tim McGraw and Faith Hill
are
actors in it.
Uh-huh.
And basically the context is it's year 1883. And they're going from Texas, and I've always like been kind of fascinated with that kind of a journey, especially like if you go to the Smoky Mountains, which is about 4 hours away from us, and understanding that people had to cross that, with their family, and these horses and buggies and all that has always just really blown my mind. But I was thinking last night, I'm not a big TV person. Like I've ever since The Sopranos and Boardwalk Empire. I mean, that's the last 2 shows that I really got into.
It's no way but down after
that. That's true. And I tried Game of Thrones. I liked it okay. But it's like, dude, I'm spending like hours watching this. Like, I just quit. But I do like this 1883 show, except for the commercials. There are commercials in it, which is a little bit on the obnoxious side. After my little girl's 6 years old, she said, "Daddy, what's that?" The show stopped. She didn't know what a commercial was.
It's probably only 15 minutes of show in a 30-minute show. The rest of it's
right. But what I thought was just amazing is these people are going from Texas to Oregon, and they're certain about the way. They're certain about the way. And it's life or death. I mean, business is not life or death.
Right.
You know, but they're certain about what they're doing. And that kind of certainty brings so much power. So much power. You know. So I was just thinking about that last night, based on your analogy of settlers versus explorers.
Yeah. I mean, Brad, context will keep you in it. Context sometimes will help you get out of a business it's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not set up for success.
Yeah.
But in our case, I mean, I wish I could say we were the first people that invested like we're investing, but in 1883, it was already happening. Large tracts of land already had been purchased with seller financing.
Right.
Some now, some later.
Yeah, that's it.
And then it was resold with owner financing. I've told this story before, but I walked down to the road when I was about 10 years old with my papa one day. And he was meeting at the fence post down there that divided his property from the next guy's property. He met the next guy down there, and said, "Lawrence, I bought, I can't ever remember if it was 2 or 4 new cows." And he said, "I need some more grass to feed them." And he said, "Well, okay, what do you want?" And he said, "Well, I'd like to buy a half an acre of property from you. And what would you take for it?" And my papa, who had raised 11 children, which my mother was the oldest.
Wow.
Now had started grandchildren.
Yeah.
Of which my cousin Terry and I are the oldest of 15 grandchildren. Excuse me, 52 grandchildren, not 15. 52 grandchildren.
52. God, you just think about the birthday present you have.
Yeah. So he still had his bottom 4 children that were still younger, while the older ones were already having kids.
Wow.
You know? So, but I walked down there with him, and he knew he still had a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I'll take a quarter of a cow for the next 10 years.
Interesting.
They wrote it on a napkin,
yeah.
And he went down to the courthouse,
Recorded the napkin?
Yeah.
Well, that's pretty strong.
So people have been buying like we buy in creative ways and selling like we sell in creative ways for a long time. I will never forget the day that Larry Sims told us. He said, boys, y'all got to learn to live in the spread.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
Learn to live in the spread.
He was my first business landlord when we first got in office. That wasn't Starbucks.
Our first 3 offices we never even went to.
Yeah.
Because we both
were out there.
We were out there.
Yeah.
And I remember one office we got on the square. We only went there on Wednesday nights because we did our first mastermind. Our first, it's about 10, 12 weeks. Remember that?
Yeah.
Of what would become investor. And he, other than that, we hardly ever went. We even worked in the office for us, but you and I never went in there.
Yeah, but you didn't know what to do.
And you got a call one day. You called me one day and said, hey, they called me from the office over there, and our lease is up. We hadn't been in it in months. So you mind running over and picking up those tables and chairs? And we went and got the tables and chairs.
Yeah.
It's weird now having an office, but
yeah,
we need it.
Yeah, for sure. So one thing that I think really messes up context is watching other people's race. So if I'm in the business and I've been in for 3 months, and then you have somebody like Will Cannon or Charlie in North Carolina, who literally these are the only 2 guys that I've ever had this happen, where they set up the marketing channel that we do, and their very first lead they bought it.
Yeah.
And so you're looking at, well, gosh, why couldn't that have been me? And so like there can be like almost a jealous aspect of that when you don't have the context of understanding that sometimes there's a bell curve. Sometimes things work a lot better than normal, and sometimes things don't work as well, but it hits average. So it's regression to the mean. You're always going to hit average once you know what that average is. And so I think that watching other people's race is the biggest thing that I see that other people have trouble with. And I get it, because part of it, if you look at it the right way, is a very good thing. So like for me, Jared Wilson, who's in Texas, who is also a mentee of David Alexander, and Jerry Rickey, who's in now Florida. He's got a place down there on some lake. He's got some land. So
no wonder you won't answer my call.
Have you called him?
Yeah, I called him last week. He's probably sunbathing out by the lake.
Probably. So I thought, well, maybe I'm too young for this business.
Right.
And Jared was my age. Well, he was doing deals and I wasn't. So what's the age?
Yeah.
He was more skilled than I was. And so I looked at them doing deals as a positive, because it showed me, well, it is possible. Like maybe I'm not there yet, but it is possible. I've just got to work harder. So for me, it's inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
I think for a lot of people, looking at that and doing that kind of comparison can be pretty debilitating.
Yeah, it's a killer.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's so funny, like nobody knows where someone else started from.
Right.
And most of the stuff that you see on the internet is garbage anyway. It's like I see all these ads of real estate people that I've personally had dinner with, and they have the Lambo behind them, and they have the scantily clad girls. And I've had dinner with these people, and they ask me questions on how we do things, and they can't believe what we're doing.
Right.
So when I was in LA and I got put in the hospital because of my appendix,
mm-hmm.
I had a dinner that night, and there were a couple guys there. And once they found out who I was affiliated with David, then they it was all Q&A at that point.
Yeah.
Because they didn't understand. But and it's a big reason why I'm like not the CNBC guy. Like I drive a Volvo, not a Lambo, and I don't put value in that anyway.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But the context there, I think, is, let's say, slightly skewed.
Yeah, I don't. I'm like you. I don't care what somebody else has. I don't care what they drive. None of that makes any sense. That kind of comparison stuff. I do think that everything is driven on a system if it's going to be lasting.
Yes, 100%.
Everything has some kind of an infrastructure in it. I mean, if we have no bones, we're just a blob. And so you could blindfold yourself and not look at anyone else. But if you get a successful system and you work it, once they take your blindfold off down the road and you've been working their good system, you're going to find yourself in a similar spot that they're in.
Mm-hmm.
How you spend what you have is important.
Yes.
Like you have told me from the beginning, you're going to make money, but how you spend it is going to be important. You need to put your money, you're making your marketing, you're making your investment money. You're only an investor if you're investing. Nothing's coming out the other end if something's not going in this end.
Right.
So I have learned through this process, there's smart spending. There's nothing wrong with spending your money.
Right.
But you can spend it on this, which is temporary, or you can spend it back into your business. There's smart saving, and there's some saving that's not so smart. If your money over here in this box, and you can get 1.5% interest on it while it sits in that box, or you can put it right back in that same system you're in, and it's astronomical, the return.
Yeah.
So I try to do smart spending and smart investing, smart saving.
Right.
It's just a different kind of saving. I feel like I'm hanging on to it when I put it over here because I know where it's sitting.
And that's 100% right. So I look at our mortgage notes as retirement.
Yes.
So, I'm 35, soon to be 36. And I've got a good 30 years before I can touch retirement money anyway. So if it's in an IRA or something like that. And so the notes that will build up across 30 years, when we've been doing it for 10 already, that's substantial.
Mm-hmm.
But 100%, man, I would never, I look at how quickly we can create equity in notes, like Charlie doing 95K
yes.
in 4 months.
Yes.
And it would be tough for someone to earn a wage and make that income to then take that income after tax and put it into a Roth to create that same value.
Right.
So
a quick example would be, I wound up with this house in a small town in West Tennessee.
Oh yeah, this is beautiful.
and so I bought it subject to.
Okay.
It has a $45,000 mortgage on it. The name on the mortgage, she has passed away.
Okay.
It was a inheritance.
Right.
But it still had a mortgage on it. Bought it from the kids. There's 6 of them. They wanted $500 a piece. So I had $3,000 walk away. And
so 3,000 or 30?
They wanted 5,000. They wanted 500 a piece. I'm sorry. They wanted $500 a piece.
Okay.
So I had $3,000 walk away.
Okay, 3,000.
Yeah. So
44 and 3. So you bought it for 47.
Yeah. So my plan was to sell it, retail it out. So I was going to do about a $15,000 rehab on it. So then I'm at 60 to 65, and sell it for 110.
So not bad.
Not bad. So my realtor, who I called about 3 weeks ago and said, "Hey, listen, I'm ready to let's get all the paperwork going. Send me over your agreement, that kind of stuff." Informs me at that point that she just booked 2 or 3 weeks in Florida with her girlfriends, and they were going down. And when she goes on vacation, she doesn't work. She'll be back on this certain date. And I said, "Okay." So give me a little
market must be good.
Yeah, give me a little bit of time to finish it up anyway, you know. So I finish it up. In the meantime, I'm up about 3 in the morning last week, and someone in an online group, an owner financing group, says I'm looking for property in West Tennessee. So I sent a message out of the blue. I mean, I don't know why, but I sent a message that said,
well, you have the context of knowing this stuff happens.
"Yeah,
because you bought the house down the street from you."
That's right. So I'm just curious, you know, what is the deal? So they told me they had once lived in Clarksville. They moved back up to parents in Michigan, but they were coming back down now. Job secured, all that kind of stuff. Transfer. They got it back down here, and it's going to be in West Tennessee. So I said, "Okay, I'm going to sell it on the market." And they said, "Well, basically, how much would it take for you to owner finance it?" And I said, "You don't want to pay that much for it." And they said, "Well, how much?" And I said, 145. And they said, "We'll take it. Can you send us an agreement?"
So 98K in gross profit.
Yes. At 8.9% interest.
So what's your cash flow?
$750 a month.
$750 a month and $98,000 in profit on a deal that you had 3K in.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
It's not bad.
You know.
It's not bad. I did a light rehab on it.
Okay.
So I probably got another 7,500 instead of 15,000. 7,500. Okay. So it's over $9,000.
Yeah.
So just the interest alone on it, and you'll capture most of that in the first 10 years.
Right.
Just the interest. It'll spin off $100,000 in interest just the first 10 years.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's strong, man. And, but I think the important thing is, stuff like this happens.
It does.
You've had these things happen.
So I'd never even heard of this town that this house is in. And I've been in Tennessee for 4 years.
Yeah.
So I guess what I want to say to you is do not come to conclusions about leads or towns or houses or markets. I would have gotten 175 for that little house anywhere else, maybe 200 in a town like Murfreesboro. But there's just not a lot of people that live over there.
Right.
And so there's no comps. There's nothing to compare it to. I could have probably gotten somebody to give me 130 for it retail, but it would never have appraised for it.
Yeah.
There's no comps anywhere, man. So this is a much better deal. And you only need, if you take your time, and in a year, you do 5 of these a year. I'm just talking low numbers.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, 5 times that, you're at 450,000 you've captured in a year. That's spinning off interest, cash flow. And gosh, if you can't retire on that, I'm not sure what you're looking for.
Yeah, I mean, for most people, effective use of creating notes, 15 deals retires them. Because they're somewhere around 10K a month in interest. And, at that point, most people can survive off of 10K. And it's so sad to me, man, because there's so many people that they work 40 years at a company to not get there. Mm-hmm. Like, I have an uncle that was a trucker. And when the financial collapse of 2009 happened, my understanding, and I could be a little bit off on this, but my understanding is that when the company that he worked for got bought out by a bigger trucking company, that they cut the pension because there was a pension obligation that the company buying said company could not pay. And basically it was, hey, this company's going to get bankrupt and you have no pension, or if we get bought out, then you have some pension. But I mean, it certainly wasn't 10K a month, And he worked hard, man, for years to get there.
My dad worked in a plant for 40 years. He and 6 young men started working there. He was one of 6 that started working there the same day. They'd gone to high school together, grown up together. They went at the local plant and worked 40 years, got 6 months from retirement, and they shut the plant down.
Hmm.
So he lost the plant side of the retirement.
Right.
He just got what he put with Social Security and what he'd save, but he didn't think he needed to save.
Right.
Because he had.
Yeah.
And one of those 6 men, they were all great friends, drove straight home, walked out in his workshop in the backyard, took his own life.
Mm.
I mean, that kind of depending on a system
Right.
to last when there's so much change that happens. It's difficult to do. So, I mean, I would encourage you to get your hands on your own future.
Yeah.
And look for a good way. We are definitely not saying the way
No, definitely not.
that you can provide for your future.
Go grow some marijuana.
Whatever. I mean, that's right. I remember I every now and then still have I'll still say out loud to my son, you can't actually do that. And he'll go, well, Dad, in half the country you actually can. And it'll be in the rest of the country before you're dead. And so whatever it takes that you can keep your hands on, you can turn the knobs. That's what you want to be doing. And that's what this provides.
Yeah, 100%. And that's great context for someone to understand as they go through this. It's like there's risk everywhere. I'd much rather bet on myself than that company existing and them doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, with their accounting and their funding and everything, I'd rather bet on myself.
That's right.
So anyway, anything else for you?
I'm good.
This was a good one, man. I appreciate you hanging out with me.
Oh, thank you.
Always a pleasure.
Always enjoy. I love 61, and the thing I'm most excited about for the next 4 years of my life, I'll only be 102 at that time, is and it's something Kara has taught me, is to stay curious.
Yeah.
Stay curious continually and never stop being a learner.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it, man.
Yeah.
That's it. All right, guys, appreciate you being with us. If you're listening to this on podcast, be sure and catch us in the Investor Creator community on Facebook. We're going to be doing more trainings and support there as well, so you'll be able to jump in on that. If you need anything, reach out to us, support@bradsmotherman.com. Otherwise, we'll see you next week, Tuesday Morning Coffee.